We got a special delivery today, and I'm pretty excited about it. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm Dave from Chiefs to Summit, and UPS just dropped this box off from Garmin, and I'm pretty excited because inside, not only do we have the brand new Garmin Forerunner 970 here, but we also have the new Garmin HRM 600 heart rate sensor. So my plan today is just to get these out of the box, get them set up, then we're gonna take them out on my first run with them and check out some of the data. Does that sound good? Let's do it. So if you missed it, about a week ago, Garmin announced the new Forerunner 970 and the 570, which I'm wearing on my wrist here. I went out to New York City. I spent the day there, learned about the new devices, and actually posted a video from Central Park over there on this channel with all the new features and specs from the new 970. Now at that event, I did get to go hands-on with the new 970, play with it, test it out a little bit. But I didn't get to go home with one. I did get to go home with the new 570 here, which I've been testing ever since, but the 970 just arrived, and that's what we're gonna be taking a look at today. So if you missed that video about the new 570 and 970, the new Forerunner 970 is essentially the evolution of this watch here. This is the Garmin Forerunner 965, and if you watch my channel at all, you know that this watch was one of my favorites for a couple of years. I really loved the form factor of this watch because you kind of get all of the flagship like Fenix 8 level features packed down into something lighter and at the time more affordable. Now the new 970 aims to improve on the Forerunner 965, but the most interesting part of the new 970 is that it is no longer significantly cheaper than a Fenix 8. It is cheaper than a Fenix 8, but just barely. The new Forerunner 970 comes in at $750 US. In classic Garmin fashion, it's a pretty no-frills cardboard box here, which I don't mind. They used to send out really fancy boxes with lots of padding and stuff, but not really this time around. Inside of that, we've got the new Garmin Forerunner 970 here. I was really hoping for the black model because I'm kind of a sucker for this black and lime green look, but this is all they had at the time, so it is what it is. Not much going on inside of the box. You got the little filler stuff here, and then you've got a USB charging cable for the 970 as well. And that's the box. Not very exciting. Let's move on to the actual hardware, but first we need to remove that plastic screen there. Listen closely. Did you hear it? And now we'll ask if I want to pair with my phone, which I do. Now it's going to go through the initial sync to get all of my user data over to the watch. I'm going to click finish, and we're good to go. And just like that, we are at the watch face of the new Forerunner 970. Now I just want to do a quick comparison between the Garmin Forerunner 970 on the left and the older 965 on the right. One thing you do notice right away is the brightness of that display, because the new Forerunner 970 has 2 times more brightness than the older 965, and that's very apparent. Moving to the side of the watches here, the new 970 has the same exact button layout. However, the buttons do not have any little indents on them, where on the 965, you had a little music icon, settings, and power button. Flipping to the other side here, a couple of more differences. The 965 has this pill-shaped Garmin logo button, and then the back button down here, where the new 970 has a round button instead of the pill-shaped button, and it does have this sort of black inner lay inside of it there. And down below the buttons, so you do have this new metal accent on the side of the new 970, where on the 965, it didn't have that metal accent. I initially thought this was a sensor guard to block the barometric altimeter, like the little holes, but it turns out the barometric altimeter is actually on the back of the watch. That's what these holes are here. So this little piece of metal on the side here is really just for aesthetic purposes. It doesn't do anything. In terms of overall dimensions, the 970 and 965 feel almost identical in the hand. I mean, I know the 970 is slightly heavier, but you really don't feel that at all. They're both very light, and they kind of feel the same. Another big difference on the new 970 is that this display is now sapphire. A sapphire display means that they use a synthetic crystal to cover up the AMOLED display. And that means it is incredibly scratch resistant, just like what you'd find on the Garmin Fenix 8 line or the Tactics line. You're also getting that here as well. And if we dive into the menu here and scroll around, you'll also find that the Forerunner 970, the new version, also has the built-in speaker and microphone on board that was missing on the Forerunner 965. What's the weather today? Turn on the flashlight. And just like that, it brings us to the next new feature on the 970. It's got the hardware built-in flashlight that's found on other Garmin models like the Instinct series and Fenix series. And I gotta say, this is a feature that you don't realize how useful it is until you actually have it. You'll notice one more thing, and that's the new 970 gets the updated heart rate sensor. This is Garmin's Gen 5 heart rate sensor, and it's the same one that you'd find on the Garmin Fenix 8 here. Same exact sensor, which is a little bit more accurate in my testing, along with getting additional features like wrist temperature detection and electrocardiogram or ECG. And when it comes to the user interface between the 965 and 970, again, they're very similar there. The menus, the widgets, everything looks pretty much the same, though there have been some tweaks on the 970 that put it more in line with something like the Garmin Fenix 8 with some of the design choices. Now that we've got the Forerunner 970 out of the box, let's get this guy out of the box, the HRM 600. So if you haven't seen anything about this yet, the Garmin HRM 600 is their new flagship heart rate monitor. I'm gonna destroy this box. And it comes with some interesting features. First of all, it is rechargeable. So in the box, you get your standard Garmin charger cable, and that plugs into the back of the actual module. There's some pros and cons here. Obviously, it's a rechargeable battery, so if the battery dies, then essentially so does your sensor, and this sensor is not cheap. It comes in at $169. That is an incredibly expensive ECG chest sensor. But inside of this module, there's also some smarts that actually unlock additional features on the 970. And this new HRM 600 simply clips on, just like any other heart rate sensor, to the chest strap. And this is what you wear around your chest while you run. But there's not much to say about this chest strap. The included strap is actually pretty comfortable feeling, pretty stretchy. And I do like the fact that it is actually removable from the band, because the previous models like the Garmin HRM Pro and Pro Plus were actually permanently attached to the band. Okay, we've hit that point where I got everything out of the box and there's only one thing left to do. Get out on a run, get some of that sweet data, and then we can take a look at it. Let's go. And just like that, we are back. I just went on a quick little run, about a 5K, not super long, but I just wanted to collect some data so we can take a look at it. During that run, one thing was super obvious, and that was the brightness. There is a huge advantage to the Garmin Forerunner 970 compared to the 965 when it comes to screen brightness. Now, there's nothing wrong with the 965 and it's like 1000 nits of brightness, but it's significantly brighter on the 970, and when you glance down at your wrist, you can clearly see all of the data while you're running, which I do appreciate. But that's enough blabbing. Let's take a look at some of the data I collected during that run, namely the GPS accuracy and heart rate accuracy. Again, this is just a first look kind of thing. I'll be doing a lot more testing on the 970, and I'll have another follow-up video down the road with more conclusive information, but we might as well take a look while we have it. Okay, so what you're looking at here is the Garmin Forerunner 970 in blue, and then there's the Garmin Forerunner 965 in red. and then the iPhone 16, which I had in my pocket in orange. And for the purpose of testing this out, I did an out and back run. So I ran out a mile and a half or so, turned around and retraced my steps back. I like doing that so I can see how the tracks line up to each other, because sort of in a perfect world, they'd all be stacked perfectly on top of each other since I sort of retraced my steps. Diving right in here, we can see here on this corner, the iPhone deviated a little bit. Moving along the course here, we can see that the red track is sort of the outlier. That's the 965. The blue line being the 970. The iPhone is definitely the worst of the bunch, and that's pretty much because I had it in my pocket and not out in the open where it could get a good GPS signal. And you can see that really obvious here where I enter a little trail in the trees here. And the tracks here definitely suffer a little bit because I am under heavy tree cover, which can interrupt with the GPS signal. And that's what we're seeing on the iPhone 16 in orange here. Through this section though, the 965 and 970 are doing a really good job around this baseball field, still doing a pretty bang on job compared to each other. Here, interestingly, the 970 drifts a little bit where the 965 actually looks a touch more accurate. And then I looped around this pond here where all of them look pretty similar. Generally, the tracks look the same. Not only do the tracks look the same, but the overall distance recorded was pretty much identical between the two. Okay, now let's take a look at heart rate sensor accuracy. And again, both these watches were on my wrist using their optical sensors. And if you look closely, you can see I was also wearing the Garmin HRM 600, which was paired to my phone, so we could have that as a baseline of comparison. Since this is an ECG sensor, it's going to be the most accurate of the bunch. All right, so now we're looking at the heart rate data. And again, we have the Forerunner 965 in that blue color. We've got the Forerunner 970 in the purple color and the HRM 600 in red. And again, this was a short run. I'll be doing a lot more testing, but this is sort of a first glance at the heart rate data. And at a high level, they again all look pretty similar. There is one outlier here. If we zoom into this section, you can see that the 970, which does have the newer heart rate sensor, was a little bit high here for some reason compared to the HRM 600 and the 965. That's one isolated area. Moving along here, it looks like the 965 was a little bit high in this area, just a touch high compared to the other two, but we're talking just a couple of beats per minute in a couple of different areas. Largely, again, I'd say they all look pretty similar, so not a huge surprise here. All right, so that's really it. A quick glance at some of the data I collected on that first run, a quick download on the new specs and features of the Forerunner 970, and I gotta say, in my experience, the first run with the Forerunner 970, it's really, really similar to the 965. The only thing you really notice when you're actually out on the run is that screen brightness. Other than that, they feel very similar on the wrist, and they even act very similar when it comes to their user interface. All right, friends, that's it for this one. Again, just a quick unboxing, first look, first run kind of video. There will be a lot more follow-up content about the new Forerunner 970 and a long-term in-depth review coming in the very near future. So if you haven't already, make sure to drop down, give me the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that video in the future. And after you do that, also check out all the links in the description down below, where you can head over to my friends over at trackbetter.com and pick up your very own Forerunner 970, because I think they have them in stock now. So head down there, go shopping, and then after you do that, also make sure to check out my other social media profiles, my Instagram, my Threads, my Strava, and my merch store, where you can pick up a sweet hat like that. Chase the Summit. Okay, that's it. I gotta go now. I'm actually gonna go for another run, hopefully a longer one this time, and then I'll see you in the very near future. Okay? I don't know how to end this. Yep. Bye.